Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment. In today's episode I'm going to show you how to make an incinerator so you can burn all of your rubbish on your allotment in a safe environment. Just out of an old oil barrel that you can get from any, or most scrapyards anyway. And all it takes is basically about 20 minutes and 3 cutting discs, and you can make yourself a very cheap and easy incinerator. So I'm going to explain how to make an incinerator out of a barrel. This is the one that I had previously, and as you can see, I could perhaps get another couple of years out of that, but I think it's pretty well shit. So really the only tools that you need to make it is obviously a reasonable sized hammer and an angle grinder, and you need a barrel obviously to make it out of. You can actually buy incinerators from garden centres and hardware stores and that, but if you make them out of a barrel they will last a lot longer than a bought one. So the first stage is to make sure you've got all the safety equipment on. So I advise you wear gloves if you're using an angle grinder. I don't, because I find it's safer to grip it without gloves, and also make sure you wear goggles. So stage one is to cut off the lid so you can put the rubbish into the barrel. Now if you notice, the way the barrel's made is the side comes up and then this top bit is swaged over. So what I'm going to do is cut around here to maintain this lip on the top. The reason I'm doing that is I want to try and keep as much strength as I can in this top part, because that's going to get the hottest and it's going to corrode the quickest. So what I'm going to do is, with the angle grinder, I'm going to cut into the side of the barrel like that, to cut round this lip, round here, so then I can remove the top. Now I don't want to cut all the way through, because obviously I'll cut into here. So what I want to do is just cut off the first part of the lid, so I leave this rib here, and obviously the side wall of the okay, barrel. Final precaution: when you're cutting metal, the sparks that fly off are always going to go off to your right. Make sure that if you've got any buildings near you, any wood near you, that there's nothing combustible, and also the metal fragments that come off will embed themselves into glass. So if you need to do it away from windows, or basically direct the sparks away from windows if there's anything near you, but make sure there's nothing in your vicinity which is combustible. So let's cut the rim. As you can see, I've cut through the first layer of metal but not into the second. Now if you've got a bit that's slightly not cut, don't worry about that, because if you hit it with a hammer here now, you'll start to pull the two parts of metal away. So if I hit it here now, you'll see that the metal starts to separate. So what I'll do is I'll cut round and then bang it with a hammer, like that, and then the two pieces of metal will start to separate. So as you can see now, I've cut all the way around the rim, only cutting through the first layer of metal, which is basically the lid. One final precaution that I forgot to mention earlier on: if you are cutting a barrel open like this, make sure you know what was in the barrel. It may have contained something flammable, like a fuel, petrol, diesel, or whatever. If you suspect that's the case, then what you need to do is basically open the barrel, take the lid off, if it's not an old barrel like this, and fill it with water to make sure all of the gases and vapours or whatever from the fuel have escaped. So right, so what I need to do now is to go around and hit this lid, which will then separate the two pieces of metal. Okay, so I'm going to try it there. Okay, so that's now broken, that part. It's just this little bit here that's all. So what I'm going to do is and that's how you get the lid off. So now I've got a barrel with an open lid. As you can see now, I've retained this lip around the edge. Now be careful, you may have some sharp edges, so what I suggest you do now is, it's probably easy to put the barrel on its side to do this, but what we need to do is just tap in these edges here, or just go around with the angle grinder to take off any potential sharp edges that you'll have, just to make sure. But I mean, there's no real sharp edges on there, but a couple of bits here where I've gone a bit deeper than the rest. So what I'll do now is just tap in these here. The easiest way of doing this is to put it on its side, put something underneath it like a brick or a slab, and then just tap in these edges here, and then possibly if you do have any sharp edges, just go around with the angle grinder in this manner. So get the angle grinder. I've got a cutting disc on here at the minute, so this is a cutting disc, which is a very narrow disc. What I guess is a grinding disc, which is a bit fatter, and just go around like that, making sure that I've taken off any sharp edges that may catch somebody whilst they're putting rubbish. Okay, so that's the cutting disc. You can see that's about 1 or 2 millimeters wide. A grinding disc will be much wider, like that. Now, a grinding disc you can use to cut or grind. A cutting disc is only used to cut. The reason being, if you try to grind something with a cutting disc, it'll become quite weak. It'll fracture, and then the fractures, as it's spinning around, will come off and hit you in the leg. You really don't want that. This is another grinding disc. It'll actually state on the disc that it's a grinding disc, and you'll see that that's about 4 millimeters wide. So just put that into your grinder. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then, so what I'm going to do now is just grind this way, so the spark's going to go into the barrel. Now you'll see that all the sharp edges have been removed, and there's no sort of rough edges anywhere around there, so nobody's going to catch their hands on it. So the next stage, in any incinerator, what you need to do is make a hole in the bottom so that the air will come into the bottom to feed the fire inside it with oxygen. So the next stage is to turn the whole barrel upside down. And now what I need to do is cut some sufficiently big holes in there to allow air to flow down it. Now the pattern in which you actually do this doesn't really matter, as long as the holes are big enough to let the air in. Obviously it's upside down at the moment. It doesn't really matter. And obviously what you need to do is hold this off the ground. So finally what it'll be is it'll sit maybe that far off the ground. Now there's a number of ways you can do this. In the past I have welded some legs onto here so it comes out to about there. 3 will more than do, maybe 4. The problem you get though is because this part here gets quite hot, and you've got all of the weight going through these legs, what you can do is weaken the welds and then they finally break off. What I tend to find is a much better solution is just to put 3 or 4 bricks on the ground and hold it up like that with bricks, rather than actually going to the bother of welding legs onto here. So the next stage is to cut some holes in the bottom. So, as I'm British, I've done a bit of a Union Jack motif. So I've got 2 lines going that way and 2 lines going that way. So what I'll do is cut out the triangles between the 2. I would say you need probably half the area open to let air through, but you want to leave sufficient strength so things don't fall through onto the floor. So what I'll do now is I'll revert it back to the cutting disc on the cutter, and I'll be cutting through these lines along there, and then across the back there to cut out these triangles, the 8 triangles. And there you go, there's a finished article, so you can see obviously the Union Jack motif. One quick tip: when you're cutting, you're going to get a lot of bits of metal and stuff on the floor, little shards of metal. What I've got here is a magnet inside a bag, and if you put a magnet inside the bag and then just take the magnet over the ground, what you'll do is you'll pick up all of the bits of metal that you don't want, and then just turn I'm doing this one-handed, just turn the bag inside out like that, and then as you pull the bag off the magnet, what you'll end up with is all the bits of metal in there that you don't want. Just put that straight in the bin. Then you can use any magnet really, obviously the stronger the better, but you know, a fridge magnet or something like that will do. Most houses have a magnet in, and then everything goes inside the bag, and then just put that in the bin, then no animals will get hurt or whatever. And then of course any little bits of metal that you have left over, like these sort of sharp bits, obviously put them in the bin. Now really all I need to do is turn the whole thing upside down, oh sorry, the right way up. So I've got 3 bricks on the floor. What I typically do is have 6 in the allotment when I'm doing it. So put the burner on, so the air will come in from the bottom here, up underneath through them holes, and then obviously as it's burning it'll come through and then burn your rubbish. So that's the finished article. Please note that I've left a bit of a ridge around the edge of the holes that I've cut out at the bottom. The reason being is the bottom will eventually rot with the heat that's generated in there, and when that happens, what I will do is I'll cut some grill similar to this, which is just some grill that I've been able to salvage, and I'll cut a circle out of that, and I shall put that, so I've left the ridge round the end, sorry, round the edge, so it's got somewhere to purchase when I make that. I'll probably won't need that to do that for a couple of years yet though. So so during the summer it's ideal to keep your pots and anything else in there that you don't need at the time, or any canes, sticks or anything like that. And then during the autumn, when you come to burn your rubbish and stuff like that, make sure you're well clear of any wood or anything like that you don't want to burn. In an open area you can burn quite a lot of rubbish in these. What I may well do is make a lid. The top that I cut off, what I might do is make a lid for this, just by welding some lips on here, so I can put that back on, just to keep, so if I put any rubbish in, when I put the lid on, when I'm not burning obviously, it'll keep the wood dry, so when I come to burn it'll be ready to burn. So I hope this episode of Jim's Allotment has been of some use to you. Please have a go at making your own incinerator. They are reasonably easy to make, and it's a much better way of burning your rubbish, because you can stack it all in there. When it's full, you can set it on fire. It's much more controllable, and everything gets burnt properly, so you don't end up with lumps of wood and stuff like that that's not burnt properly. So get yourself a barrel, go down to your local scrapyard, see if you can get a barrel, and obviously any bits that you don't use, dispose of them correctly, and stay safe. Wear gloves, goggles, ear protection, etc. if you do anything like this. And I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please put comments or suggestions below. Please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next edition of Jim's Allotment Garden.